Welcome back to Starting with IEP. I am Flor Amelia, and this is episode number 20. If this is your first time here, I want to say to you clearly that you are not late, you are not failing, and you are not doing this wrong. If you just received a diagnosis or you're still in that limbo of we know something is off, but we don't have the answer yet, then this episode is for you. In episode 19, we talked about the newly diagnosed parent and how a community can prep you for those IEP meetings. That village can definitely go a very long way, especially once you develop those connections with other families and you know what's going on in other areas of your county and also other states, because you can definitely learn what other states are doing. Because why not? Why can't we do it, especially if they are helping our child in a meaningful way? Today, we're talking about the Infants and Toddlers Program, also known as the Early Intervention under the IDEA Part C. We're going to be talking about what it is, how to access it, what services it includes, how eligibility works, and how it differs by state. And most importantly, what I wish I had known at the beginning instead of learning the hard way. This episode is meant to empower you before the IEP even begins. Before we get started, if this podcast has been helpful to you in any point of your journey, please take a moment to follow, like, comment, and share this episode with another parent who may need it. These small actions help this information reach families who still are feeling lost and don't know where to start. And if you're looking for clear step-to-step guidance beyond the podcast, you can find our IEP coursework, IEP workbooks, and IEP flashcards at www.startingwithiep.com. Everything there is designed for real parents in real moments who need support without feeling overwhelmed. Now take a breath and let's start together. What is Infants and Toddlers Program? The Infants and Toddlers Program is a federally mandated program under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This is IDEA Part C. It serves children from birth to the third birthday. Children who may have developmental delays, medical diagnoses, or are considered at high risk. In the last episode, how I mentioned infants and toddlers, they already mentioned this when my daughter was diagnosed at 14 months about her seizure disorder. Infantile spasms. I remember that day. Sorry, that day was so hard. And sometimes just going back there, it just gets me a certain way. But I remember them talking about, they threw everything at me, which every parent is different. I think I needed it because I needed to know that there was like a tough road ahead for my daughter. And I needed to know like my to-do list. I guess every parent is different though, right? So I, as a parent, I like to-do list and I like knowing how deep I am in this to-do list or how am I not doing well with the to-do list. So the day that my daughter was diagnosed, they gave me so many different resources, so many different things to do for my daughter. Definitely a lot of specialists to talk to. Education has always been important in my family. So one of the things they told me about Aaliyah's future, I remember, I know it's so silly, you guys. I know it's so silly, but I did ask, is Aaliyah going to go to college? A lot of you guys are like, why are you thinking about that at 15 months? And the reason why is because I remember how they were telling me, because remember, she was diagnosed at 14 months and then at 18 months was when we got the diagnosis of moderately to severely. And back then they called it mental retardation. And that's how we got the letter. They were telling me how it was going to affect her cognitively. But she was having hundreds of seizures every single day, that the intensity was going to really impact her future. So I just wanted a yes or no, as if they had a crystal ball. But remember, I was a very young mom. I was in my 20s, still in college. So I just wanted them to tell me, is she going to go to college? I was so confused because different neurologists were giving me different responses, different treatments, and I thought it can be somewhat similar. But you guys, they told me that she most likely won't be able to drive a car. And then they were like, if she won't be able to drive a car, most likely it would be difficult for her to even sustain going to college. He didn't sugarcoat it for me. And I think that's why, like, bedside manners, this one was such a huge slap in the face for me that I went really hardcore in finding the right neurologist. But I was also getting prepped. I needed to get her medical side like down packed. I needed to make sure that it was stable because I knew I had to run, right? Like when you're on this race and you have to get started, I needed to catch up to everyone else. So that's what I felt like. Aaliyah was in my back and I had to run this race for her, and I had to really push everything that I got in order for her to catch up to her peers. But I knew I couldn't even be part of that race until I had her stable on the medical side of things. But because of that doctor, and that was so honest, brutally honest, I can't describe it, you guys. Maybe this is why, for all these years, I should be grateful to him, because I guess he lit this match under me that I always knew that I had to really push for her. I really had to advocate really strong for her. He did say if we can control the seizures, maybe it can be a different future for her. But a lot of the cases with individuals that have infantile spasms, they already know the prognosis of what their future is going to be. And they have a really good idea. So I guess I can be thankful for him, but I don't know. I have these mixed feelings. So even though he was brutally honest, I am thankful, because this got me really prepared and making sure that I'm very focused when it comes to Aaliyah's education, which is why I cannot stress enough about how important early intervention is, how important the Infants and Toddlers Program is. So if you feel like there's something, off, if you feel more should be done, please contact your Infants and Toddlers Program. So one of the things that I do want to express is that the Infants and Toddlers Program, it is not a school. It's early support. I remember a lot of the hesitation with this is because services, how it usually happens, it's in your home, or it can also be seen and done in the daycare or in everyday natural environments. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm a military family. My husband just retired, so I was. But during this time, my husband was deploying a lot. And remember I told you I was going to college. I was trying to balance everything. I did have to put a pause onto that, because I was still trying to finish the semester, like not strong. I was just trying to finish the semester to count. But I was so embarrassed about how my house slept. I'm going to be honest. It was not good, because I was still trying to manage everything that was going on at school. You can see definitely, I remember my study section with all my books, if I had time to get to that, because also, I had Aaliyah who was going through so much. I had accommodations to turn in things late because of what was going on with my daughter. So for anyone that is also trying to finish college and their child is going through a diagnosis, just know that you can ask for accommodations. I remember that they gave me a year-long extension to submit all of my courses. Now, do all universities do that? I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if they do, but it came to such a shock to us that they did do that. So the universities, if you're a mom like me or dad that is just trying to balance everything, but still trying to be there for your family, just know that please reach out to your university and just let them know what's going on. And the professors there, they're humans. They understand. There's accommodations that can be done. But during this time, I guess one of the biggest hesitation in having visitors come to your home, let alone a parent of a child with special needs that is medically fragile, and also on top of that, a military family where the family is going through the spouse being on deployments. So I want to say a lot of the times my house wasn't on the standards that I would like visitors coming in. So I think that was a huge hesitation, but my daughter just needing to have early intervention. So many times I'm like, I'm so sorry, the house is a mess, I'm so sorry. And they would be like, it's okay, I'm used to it. I'm used to it. I think them telling me that they are so used to and there's like nothing that they haven't seen, that made me feel so much better, because I was like, I'm so sorry. So in my culture, when you have guests over, you're supposed to give them something like to snack on, to drink. I should just let you guys know I'm not a great cook. Still, I'm not. So I would feel so bad. I would feel so stressed. I remember when they would come, I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't have time enough to go to the grocery store to pick up something from the bakery so I can offer them something to eat. But they made it so clearly that they weren't coming to make me clean my house or for me to give them something to eat or something to drink, which they were very happy that I even wanted to offer that. But they're just here to help my little one. And I was so grateful that they helped me be a better parent in a way that they showed me how to teach my daughter. They taught me how to break things down even further, like thinking out of the box. Because I remember every single time I'm like, wow, you made learning so much fun. And for that, that was huge for me. Learning how best my child was learning through interest. And I don't know if you remember that I told you that, I don't know if you recall me telling you while I had Aaliyah, I also had my other one. This early intervention for my daughter was actually prepping me for early intervention for my son, which in the beginning, he had speech delay. He was receiving a lot of speech therapy, which he also ended up receiving early intervention for his speech. And for those that are hesitant because it would have people to come into your home, it'll be fine. They understand. They know the amount of stress that we're under. They understand all of the medical appointments, all of the different specialists that we're talking to, especially if it's only one parent in the home. They understand regardless of the situation that you're in. So they very much do not judge. Never had I ever been in a position that I felt that they were judging me. I just very much felt that they were helping me. But for those that are like, that is just hard, very, very hard. That's okay. You guys can also meet them up at the library. I remember once I slept in, you guys. I'm so sorry. Lack of sleep here. And I slept in because I heard someone ringing the doorbell and I was like, oh, what? Ah, I felt so bad. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but my house is, I didn't prep. At least I would clear up some space. This was over 13 years ago, so please do not judge me too much. But I do want to share. It is such a hard time. I remember me sleeping in, and the first thing that she said is, I'm glad you had some sleep. I'm glad you had some sleep. Is this a good time? She was like, I can come back. In my head, I'm like, no, because you're going to drive off and then, you're going to spend time driving. And then I just felt bad. I felt bad. I didn't want her to feel that I didn't care about her time because I very much cared about it. But I think she noticed how uncomfortable I was because I was trying to still clear up all of Aaliyah's toys. I was trying to make more space. Or I remember this one time I had a lot of like my own project for school because I was still in college and I was working on my project. So I was like trying to put all my papers back. And then one of the options that she gave me, she was like, if you would like, we can also go to the library because she knew I always felt that I needed to clean and make it perfect, this perfect space for her. And she didn't want me to do that. She was like, we can go to the library. And then in the library, there's like these study rooms and there's some play sections in the library, depending which library we go to. Because some libraries, the ones that are bigger, they have this play area. And when the weather was nice, we would go to the playground and they can teach me different games that I can be playing with Aaliyah when she was such a little baby. I remember all of that. That was so great. It can be in different environments. They can also go to your child's daycare in case that you work. If they can't teach you, they'll teach the caretaker, the provider that is taking care of your child during the daytime. So they can help them with early interventions that can be done in that setting as well. They really wanted to focus on in everyday natural environments. So when you think about early intervention, I want you to think about the key goal. They are here to support your child early while the brain is most flexible before the age of 8 and to support you as the parent. One definitely important thing that I want you to know is that you do not need a diagnosis to call infants and toddlers. I know that has been very much a myth, but I want to make sure that you guys understand. So if you're concerned, you are definitely allowed to call. So again, if you have these concerns or if you have these doubts or if you're really worried, just go ahead and give them a call. I think the hesitation is that a lot of families, they believe that once they call, there will be a long to-do list, a lot of paperwork, more paperwork. I know that's a huge hesitation, but please know when you do call, there is also a long wait time as well. So it's just better to call and then just know that you will be given some time to collect all the information that is needed by them. Now, let's talk about why timing matters. This isn't an opinion, this is research. Early intervention has been shown to improve communication, social emotional skills, motor development, and adaptive and daily living skills. I think that fact alone really made me make sure that I was doing as much early intervention across all different areas. So I made sure to search a lot of different therapies for Aaliyah, such as speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, music therapy, HIPAA therapy. I looked for it all because of that research alone. In fact, studies show up to a 40+% reduction in later special educational needs. So in states like Maryland, about 2/3 of children show meaningful developmental progress. And over 80% of parents report that they're feeling more confident, understanding of their rights, and knowing how to advocate because they had to do this earlier on. So this isn't about rushing your child. This is about giving support at the moment it helps the most. I remember talking to a parent and they were like, "No, I just want my child to be a child. I don't want to stress out about that." And I do understand that. I do understand that the stress is so big, that the stress can be so unbearable sometimes, but it's like everything else. It's like everything else. If you put that stress for later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, or you really do believe what others have told you that they'll catch up on their own. But what if they don't, you guys? I remember that they told me that we lost Aaliyah's ideal medical intervention when I remember them saying we lost it. If we would have caught her seizures earlier, Aaliyah would have been seizure free. I think for me, that's how I see early intervention. I see early intervention is the sooner that we catch it, the sooner that they can catch up to their peers. So we're just giving them, again, more support at the moment that they need it most. It'll be easier for the whole catching up to their peers. Our next segment is what are the services that are included? So let's talk about those services because this is where families get confused. Most states offer speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, developmental or special instruction, feeding therapy, and social emotional support. And here's something that I wish I knew sooner. Early intervention is not just therapy for your child, it is coaching for you. Therapists should model strategies, explain why they're doing things, and help you use skills in daily routines. I remember if it was not my daughter wondering what's in her bag, I'm not gonna lie, it was me. I definitely was very much interested. What toys did she bring in next? Yes, I was that parent that would definitely like, oh, where did you get that? Where did you buy it? Lakeshore. Oh my goodness. I became known in that Lakeshore store, which is about 30 to 40 minutes from our house, depending on traffic. But I very much gone there. I'm like, oh, they used it. You used it. And I remember there was one therapist in particular that she was like, you don't have to do all that. She actually stopped bringing a lot of her Lakeshore materials because she was a former teacher. So what she started doing, she was like, you know where I got these toys? I was like, where? Because she definitely knew after her session, I was going to get the same thing. I would get the same thing so that way I can use it when she leaves. She was like, I got this from the thrift store. And you actually have a great thrift store 10 minutes away from your house. And she took pictures of it. And I was like, oh my goodness, all these toys. There were some Lakeshore boxes that were like new, that looked completely new. Oh my goodness. Yes. So then I was like, I can find Lakeshore products at this thrift store. I couldn't believe it. So then I would go there and definitely I would definitely wipe out those shelves. Definitely. That was me. If you ever saw it empty, it was because I went there and I just had to buy everything because I guess I knew how much the prices were at Lakeshore. So I would be like, oh my goodness, for the price of one Lakeshore item, I can get 5 different ones because it's so expensive. They would allow you to examine inside the box. I'm like, oh my goodness, all the pieces are here. So I couldn't believe it. So yes, definitely. I remember she showed me about thrift stores. I was a young mom back then, so I definitely was learning how to budget and everything. And sometimes I would put my daughter's needs above everything. Being a young mom when I was in college back then, it was just nice to know that there was different ways to budget. So I really much thanked her for allowing me to know about these type of things. And oh my goodness. And remember, I told you in the last episode that she showed me how to use everyday uses. She helped me use for the carton egg and the shoebox. I remember once she showed me like 5 different uses of ways that we can play with a balloon. She was a former teacher. Out of one toy, she could just make different things, use it in multiple different ways. I remember she was like, do you have any of your pots? And I was like, I do. Finally, we could use it because I don't really cook. She was like, please bring me your pots. And then we did a lot of imaginary play with the pots. So we would feed, but we would use it. And so she was saying, wherever you go, I want Aaliyah to go. So she would just give me so many different ideas, activities for us to do in the kitchen, ideas to do in the living room, ideas for her bedroom. And not once did she involve the TV. It was like a lot of music, a lot of cutting. We went outside in the playground because in that time I lived in an apartment building and our apartment building had a little tiny playground. So she would help me like the different ideas to go over there as well. It was really nice. It was really nice. She also offered if we can go more out in the community, but because I also had a little baby, I felt that it was too much to handle. So I prefer it being more at home. Unless the playground, it's fine because then I can distract my other one. But I preferred it. My other child would tag along and then he would also be part of the session. And what was so nice is that the therapist that would come, they would allow my other son to be part of it because what they were working on with peers and groups and their relationship, how to put it together, I loved how they involved my son in Aaliyah's therapy. They involved it because they knew how important he was going to be in her life. So I loved it. I loved it. And they were teaching her how she can communicate with her brother. I love it when they involve siblings. That's actually a great thing because sibling, that is very much important. So I just definitely saw how they explained the things that we're doing and modeled every strategy that they had. They explained why they were doing things, and they definitely helped me with the skills in daily routines. And they can definitely much do this for you. And if you're feeling that the sessions do feel passive, please know that you are allowed to ask more. You're not being difficult, you're being involved, and actually, they love it. They love it when you ask questions. They love that they are helping you make a difference in your child's life. So, yes, they love making you feel empowered. I remember one of the things that they told me is that they liked my energy, they liked my positivity, they liked how I was able to take things in because it motivated them to come with more ideas for me, the parent, to learn from. I remember getting emails saying, hey, you're going to be so excited about tomorrow. I used to be so excited. I'm like, oh, I wonder what she's going to do next. So this is like part of the village that I was telling you that you should be making. So the first one is networking with other parents, but definitely when you're starting off, early intervention, the Infants and Toddlers Program, they can be definitely a strong part of your village. Now let's talk about eligibility. All states must follow the IDEA Part C, but states are allowed to be flexible. And what I mean by that is through eligibility. So it may look different depending on where you live. But the common eligibility categories include developmental delays in communication, motor skills, social emotional development, and adaptive skills. Some states require a 25% delay, others require a 30 or 40% delay. Some children qualify automatically based on a diagnosis, while others qualify due to prematurity, low birth weight, or medical complexity. This is why one parent might say that my child qualified easily, and another parent may say they told us to wait. Both experiences can be true, so it just depends. So if you have any questions about eligibility, I would ask your state. I would definitely contact the Infants and Toddlers Program and ask them more about eligibility and how your child can qualify. And also, it definitely helps if you have that village, right? So you can talk to them about how their Infants and Toddlers Program experience, how it went through their eligibility process, how long of a wait. So this is also a great time for you to reach out to those families that already went through that. And let's just say that you're like, Flor, I don't have time to make friends. I don't have time to speak to someone. Then you can definitely check out Facebook. I definitely understand what you mean by that, though, because it is like, what time? What time is there, right? So what I suggest you to do is go to Facebook and go to support groups. And for example, you can put Autism Montgomery County. You type that, and then it shows you different groups in Facebook that you can be a part of. Once you request to be part of that Facebook group, then you can make a post or you can make an announcement saying, hey, I'm new to this group. You can share as much or as little that you want about your child. If I were to write a post, I would be, hey, my daughter was just diagnosed with infantile spasms. She is 18 months old. Can you guys please tell me about the Infants and Toddlers Program in this county? Can you let me know how long is the wait period? What should I expect? What type of services are they offering? And you can also be like, feel free to reach out to me privately because there's some parents that might be a little shy on those comments. So if you put, hey, you can reach out to me privately or you can direct message me. Actually, one of the first groups that I joined on Facebook was infantile spasms. I typed in infantile spasms group and there were moms in the same county, which for me, that diagnosis they told me was so rare. And I was so happy to found another family. Actually, I found two families in this state and we drove an hour and a half to see them. I think the closest one was 30 minutes away. And then there was one in Virginia. I live in the DMV area and it was just really nice. It was just so nice to connect with other families, compare notes as in neurologist notes. So if you guys have a diagnosis that you feel no one else will understand, there are support groups. And if there isn't, I suggest starting one if that is a project that may not overwhelm you, because I definitely do not want to overwhelm you, but you can start a group so that way you can connect with other families. You can put your county, you can put your state, and then you can also add special needs, or you can put autism, or you can put the diagnosis that your child has. So that might be an easier way to find a Facebook group that you can ask the questions that you have about early intervention, how their process are, and definitely just to see who can reach out. And maybe you guys can arrange a play date if you guys feel comfortable at a local park. Okay. Now here's the practical part, right? So I just told you about ways that you can hear from other parents. Now the practical part for yourself to start enrolling your child or finding the eligibility for your child, the first thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to go to Google's and you're going to type out Infants and Toddlers Program plus your state. You can call them directly or you can submit an online referral. I would like to say that I like everything with timestamps. So if I were you, I would definitely do an online referral. But if you prefer the call, please store the date, the time that you called, and the person that you reached out. If they have a direct line, please write that out as well. And please, if you can, get their email so you can write them a follow-up email just to make sure that they know that you have been calling. Because with the online referral, there's like more of a timestamp. But with the phone call, there might not be one, so I just want to make sure about that. And if you're not sure what to say, please use the sentence. I'm requesting an early intervention evaluation for my child due to developmental concerns. It's that easy. That's it. You don't need the right words. You don't need a diagnosis. And again, you don't need permission. Your concern is very much enough. And that's one of the things that I hope that you got from this episode. Your concern is definitely enough to make that phone call just to have things started. So the next thing that I want to talk about is what to expect during the evaluations. Now, evaluations typically happen in your home or familiar setting, which makes sense, right? Because if you were to bring them to an office, they would be so focused on the different toys, on the new toys, on the different people. Maybe even the smell or the lighting can affect them. That's why it's ideal for them to be in your home where the child is already used to their toys, used to their environments. That way, the team member who is observing your child, they can observe the communication that they're having day to day, see how they're playing, see their movements around their homes, seeing the daily routines that their child is used to. And the things that they may ask you about during that evaluation is about your pregnancy, if there was a complication in your pregnancy during birth, the birth history, what had they seen? I remember with my son right at birth, I wasn't allowed to hold him. I remember that while I was giving birth, Aaliyah was hospitalized and Sean, my husband, was with her getting an EEG, but I was giving birth and I was so afraid, you guys. I was so afraid because the doctor was like, I was going to call for them to bring the helicopters to take your child to a better hospital because they did an x-ray and they saw something in his chest. But then they said miraculously it got better. But my child had speech delay. So I remember me explaining all of that to them in the Infants and Toddlers Program in case there was any correlations. I don't mean to snap, but at this time I was an angry mom. And I talked to you guys about this in my first episode. I hate those milestones because I would constantly be like, she can't do that. She can't do that yet. I remember once I snapped and I was like, she can't do that. That's why I'm here. I don't mean to be so rude, but I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that they understood my feelings. And I want to say, if you were anything like me and you don't like answering those questions, or you really try your best to avoid those questions, please know that they're doing it just to know the baseline. So it's not so much to hear what your child can't do, it's more to give them ideas what type of goals. So these milestone questions are more to see what goals they can be working on during session. For me, I don't know why. Maybe this was the young me. Maybe you guys don't have this issue like I did, but it triggered me so much to talk about her milestones because she wasn't getting it and filling out so many questionnaires about, no, she's not there. No, she's not there yet. No, she's not there yet. I'm like, if I get one more milestone question, yes, it really much pushed me off the edge. But just letting you guys know these milestone questions, it's just so they can know more of what goals would be appropriate for your child during these sessions. Another thing, be prepared to definitely tell them your concerns. What are you so worried about? Why did you call? What was your gut thing? For me, it was communication. It was definitely communication. And the reason also why I knew it was communication is because I knew how her medications were hindering her language. And a lot of her seizures were happening where her language would be processed at, from what they explained to me, the neurologist. Also, one of the things that I saw was there was so much regress before my daughter was able to run. And now I had to put her back at a walker. They definitely heard me when I was getting concerned, because one of the things that they were talking about is how my daughter was going more into Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. They were telling me that Aaliyah one day will be in a wheelchair. And because of this regression, that's why Aaliyah was having like an earlier diagnosis. Later on, they removed that and they put intractable epilepsy. But yes, definitely told them my concerns about how my daughter was back in a walker. I wanted to make sure that I did everything that I could. So definitely my concerns were being heard, and they put that as one of the goals that they knew that I wanted to make sure that she was working on. So here's something important. Your concerns matter just as much as those test scores that you're about to get. So if something feels off, I need you to start getting used to it and just say it. You need to say it, because the more that you get used to saying it, the easier this IEP process will be in the future. So just know that all those goals, all of this process, those questions that they're asking you about the milestone, the birth, the concerns, all of that process, that leads to an IFSP. And what that means is an individualized family service plan. So in this next segment, we're going to talk about the difference between an IFSP and an IEP. So let's just clarify this. An IFSP is for birth to the age of 3. It is family-centered, it is routine-based, and it is natural environment focused. IEP starts at the age of 3, which is school-based, education-focused, and it's legally different. The transition is a process, and it should never be a surprise. What I mean by that, I was very close to my daughter's early intervention team. I was very close to them. So I knew that we were going to be transitioning into school. I remember holding on to really closely the IFSP. Actually, I remember I wanted all those documents and I sent it to the neurologist because I wanted to show them how she was progressing, or when she was regressing, I would show them like, look, they collected data on her goals and she was doing this a month ago and now she's not even responding to these. So I would share all of the documentation there. So they did such a great job in helping me understand their goals. But one of the things that I wish that I had a better transition with is transitioning from the IFSP to the IEP, because I didn't know that I was about to have my daughter's IEP. Going into that, I thought I was just getting to know the teacher. It was very much different. It was a surprise, but it shouldn't have been a surprise. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys, that it shouldn't have been. But it makes the transition so much easy when you do have an IFSP, because they know already of the goals that you guys have been working on at home, and it gives them somewhat of a light of the things that you should be working on, or they can be working on in the IEP. Which this actually brings on to the next topic of the things that I wish I knew then. So let me slow this down a bit, because there's so much I wish I knew then. So the first thing is that I wish I knew that asking question wasn't being difficult. Because if you think I talk a lot now, imagine all my questioning. I felt so awful always asking questions and being that difficult parent. Or sometimes I'm like, okay, before you leave, can I ask you one more question? But actually, that wasn't my last question. I thought it was, but then that question that they answered, the answer that they gave me like 3 new questions. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be difficult. Or can I write you an email about these questions that I still have? Because I know that they had to go to other homes. But just know that those questions just make you a better advocate for your child. So please don't feel like you're being difficult. If anything, they actually do like it because they know that both of you guys are collaborating, both the parents and the early intervention team. Another thing that I wish I knew is that progress isn't linear. I wanted to say I would have loved it for it to be linear. But actually with Aaliyah, it was like, it goes up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down. Yeah, it was just so many different ways, but it was never a nice slope. It was not that. And I wish someone earlier on would have told me that you might feel you're getting a step forward, but then it's 2 steps back. And I wish someone would have normalized that for me, or at least would have given me, because sometimes with data, I want to say I wanted to see just going straight up, but it's not like that. And Aaliyah's always making progress. One of the things is that I knew I hated the word milestones, but what I appreciated is very much of my daughter's inch stones. So I saw her inch stones as progress, and it definitely allowed me to celebrate that with them. Something else I wish I knew is that I could respectfully disagree. That's what I wish I knew. I remember towards the end of my daughter's Infants and Toddlers program, I put her in a program. I actually forgot what the program is called. It's in Iowa. We started a new ketogenic diet that was medically proven, but sometimes the therapists, they wanted to encourage Aaliyah with a Cheerio. And I'm like, oh no, we cannot have that. She was like, oh, but it's just one Cheerio. I was like, you don't understand. The doctor said we cannot have those carbs if it's not in her diet. We cannot have Cheerios in her diet. And if you give her one, she's going to want more. But I remember thinking that if I did that, I would be wrong or she would be mad at. I remember once I did allow that. I'm like, oh, one Cheerios. Like she would know. I already told her about the ketogenic diet. I already told her about how strict it was. But then when she kept, I'm like, look, we just can't do it. Please respect Aaliyah's ketogenic diet because I saw it as one Cheerio or two Cheerios. But her doctor said, don't do that. We were changing my daughter's diet. I knew that she was going to want more and more of it. Why was she only restricted to just two? So I remember when I actually did say something, she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I had no idea. And she understood. And I knew that I could respectfully disagree. But I guess one of my biggest flaws is that I put these professionals in such a high pedestal, which I want to say it's a good thing, but also it can be a bad thing because I'm my daughter's best advocate. I know my daughter best. I live with her, right? They only get to see my daughter for a little bit. And I definitely have a lot to say. So it was nice to know that I could respectfully disagree because I knew my daughter best and I'm only doing things for her best interest. It's definitely okay to respectfully disagree, especially if you know things that you do not agree with, right? So you can always respectfully disagree and then explain, and then you guys can both collaborate. You guys can definitely find a middle ground. So one of the things that we did instead of the Cheerios, I brought Aaliyah like these Play-Doh, which she definitely wanted to eat. She really liked the smell, which would always be like right next to her mouth. And then we would work on making sure that she doesn't eat that. But we definitely found something else that she would definitely be motivated to want to work with her. I know that they were definitely looking for different prizes and rewards to get her motivated to work because sometimes with Aaliyah's medication, sometimes it can make her very lethargic. So they wanted to make sure that she was always excited to be in session or motivated to want to learn at that time. So I understood why they used those Cheerios. And the reason why Aaliyah wanted those Cheerios was because the ketogenic diet, her neurologist said that she had to be on a strict diet in order to help decrease the seizures. So the ketogenic diet was helping her at that time, decreasing the seizures. But unfortunately, it didn't help her enough to restrict so much diet. So we actually stop doing that diet. Aaliyah is no longer in that diet for those that are wondering. Another thing I wish I knew is that waiting rarely helps. Do you guys remember I mentioned how milestones, I hate answering those questionnaires. And that was one of the main reasons why I would delay or postpone different appointments or when we meet with a new therapist is because I knew I had to answer those. But I really want to tell you guys, just do it. Just get one part started. Get that call in, write that email out, and then when they respond, it will take them days. But if you're already on the stress, hopefully it gives you a wiggle room, letting them know that you already start. It's like tag you're it type of thing, but you know that you already did your part. But waiting, it doesn't help the child right now. I understand if you're feeling overwhelmed, but if we keep on waiting, the situation only can get worse. And for my daughter, her regression was getting worse. So that's one of my biggest things is that I learned that I couldn't wait because her seizures were getting worse, which meant that her regression was also getting worse. So I had to make sure that even though it felt very overwhelming for me and I had to get over it and I just had to do it, which definitely helped. I also wish that I knew that my intuition mattered every single time. I learned the hard way. If you guys heard the first episode, I mentioned how I told the nurse, I told the doctor, I knew there was something wrong with her neck, why her head was always dropping. And they told me, hey, there's other sick kids here, stop calling. But my gut knew that there was something wrong. From that point on, whenever I feel that there's something off, I'm going to keep on being persistent because never again am I going to make my daughter wait for services or wait for help or wait for answers. One of the most devastating things as a mom for me to hear is that we lost the medical intervention window that could have helped stop her seizures. It's better to catch it earlier on. So one of the things, again, I wish I knew is that my intuition mattered. Even though they may have those medical degrees, the doctor, the nurses, I should have been more persistent. So if you feel that there's something off, please follow your gut and keep on being persistent, or just go to a provider that does listen to you and that wants to work with you. And most important of all, I wish I knew that needing help did not mean that I was weak. It meant that I was responsive. I think a lot of the times, thinking back, I was like, oh, I'm such a young mom. They're getting annoyed by me because they see me as this young mom. And back then, I want to say that I looked like a teen mom, not a college mom. So I want to say that I felt that there was a lot of judgment going on. And for me to ask all these questions made me feel that I looked more of an incompetent mom. But I wish I would have seen it more that I was a responsive mom. So we need to see this more. And I actually tell this to a lot of my families. When we see our kids going downhill, we should not be reactive. We need to anticipate them going downhill, right? We need to anticipate that. We need to anticipate it to the point that we're being proactive. So again, this is what I mean by being responsive. We're being responsive because we're being proactive of what could be the situation down the road for our children. Just follow that gut, because what we're trying to make sure is that you avoid these common mistakes. So let me just save you some stress. Don't wait for a diagnosis to call Infants and Toddlers. Please don't assume that professionals know your child better than you. Don't minimize your concerns because someone says they'll grow out of it. And don't skip that transition planning. You are your child's constant advocate because the systems are changing, but you remain there, you remain constant. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I wish someone explained to this sooner, then this episode did its job. So if this information helped you, please follow the podcast, leave a comment, and share this episode with another family who might be right at the beginning of this journey. And if you want continued support beyond the podcast, you can explore our IEP courses, our IEP workbooks, and our IEP flashcards designed specifically for newly diagnosed families at www.startingwithiep.com. These resources were created to help you walk into meetings prepared, confident, and informed without feeling overwhelmed, because you are not behind. You are building something early, intentionally, and with love. Thank you for trusting me to walk this part of the journey with you. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.